My name is Stephanie Shea, and I work for M&T Bank in Business Banking Division. Also, I'm the board chair of Asian American Chamber of Commerce. AACC is excited to be hosting and partner with SBA again. Before we start, a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. We will record today's presentation and share it afterwards. We will mute your line and turn off your web camera due to a large group of audience. If you have a question for our speakers, please feel free to send it in chat room. And last, we would like to encourage you to share today's webinar with your social networks. I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers. Mr. Libo Sun. Libo holds a position as Marketing and Outreach Manager at SBA in our region. Libo has helped and presented many of webinars in English and various Asian languages on AACC's webinars. Another speaker is Mr. Nick Rajpara. Nick holds a position as Economic Development Specialist at SBA and also in our region. Today, both are going to answer your questions regarding PPP loan forgiveness if they know the answers. However, if they don't get to your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterward. Before I hand it over to our speakers, I wanted to thank AACC's board members fully support, and Dr. Cindy Xiao, the president of Asian American Chamber of Commerce. Cindy has been working tirelessly to put many webinars with different topics to serve our community, and she will be the moderator for today's questions. Without any further ado, I'd like to kick things off by welcoming Libo and Nick. Gentlemen, over to you.
Okay, I'm not sure, Libo, if you wanted to start or you wanted me to just start with some opening remarks. Okay. I take that as a cue that I'll just go ahead and I will get started with some opening remarks. Folks, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with the Asian American Chamber of Commerce, a valued partner. There is a lot of Asian-owned businesses, you know, being someone of Asian descent. I guess Indians are considered Asian, kind of, sort of, but being someone of Asian descent, I know that it's a big part of the community bedrock. So a lot of Asian businesses and non-Asian businesses, quite frankly, are really interested in understanding how these new programs of the CARES Act will be applied. And that's going to be the basis of what we're going to be chatting about today. I don't believe that we're going to be doing a formal program review like we did last time, presuming that everyone on the call has a base of understanding, given that many of you have probably applied for the programs or are in the process of applying for these programs. So we'll be happy to review basics if needed, but if not, we're just going to go right into it. I guess we'll just start with updates, you know, notwithstanding a formal presentation. We're going to do just a couple updates, and Libo, please feel free to chime in if I miss anything. Many of you may have applied for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL, known as EIDL. That was an original program that was pre-existing the CARES Act, which was signed into law of March 27th, but the EIDL program was always there. It was an SBA program to basically replace loss of cash flow, working capital that a business would incur at a time of a disaster. Now the EIDL program the way it was funded, the way it was designed for localized and regionalized disasters. It was never really designed for, you know, a disaster which would strike throughout the United States from sea to shining sea. So the program was oversubscribed, where where the SBA was overwhelmed with applicants. So the original applicants that started the application process in early March, they got their applications in before the system crashed. They would have a application number that would start with a 2. Then the idle application program went down for a week or so, a week and change, and it was revamped. And it was expedited. So, I think it was in early April. The program was revamped. The application process revamped. The CARES Act added a provision to the EIDL program known as the EIDL Advance. And this advance is up to $10,000 of advance funds that you would receive for every employee. You receive $1,000 for every employee, maxed out at $10,000. So that was to cover your payroll cost while you were waiting for the larger EIDL loan. The loan amount was determined by your gross monthly profit. The way SBA determines your gross monthly profit is they take your revenues, they subtract your cost of goods sold, divide it by 12, and that's your gross monthly profit. They add a multiplier to that number. Now, originally, the program had a loan amount you could qualify for up to $2 million. As many of you have probably heard in the media, or if not, I'm breaking new news to you, the loan amount is now maxed out at $150,000. And this is done because the volume of applicants that have applied for the program. SBA stopped taking new EIDL applicants as of a couple of weeks ago. There's one exception they made, which is agribusinesses, which were not originally able to apply for the program. I'm not sure how many of you are agribusinesses, but the application process has opened up for agricultural businesses. The application process is also reopened up, I should say, for folks that were the early applicants, the folks that have an application number that starts with a 2 that applied before the system crashed and was revamped. There was a glitch in the system, which the folks that originally applied were supposed to get an email to reapply in the new system. Many of these folks never got that email. They did not reapply, and then they were shut out of the program. So the folks that have had a previous application number starting with the 2 are eligible to reapply in the expedited system. The good news about the expedited system is that the process does not take as long. It is a fast track application process. So if you were one of the early batch of applicants, you can reapply now along with agribusinesses. If you receive an error message, contact us. We could help resolve that issue. And that's regarding the EIDL program. I'm going to go into paycheck protection program in a bit, but just a couple other programs that you may not have heard of, which are important, may be important for you. SBA has a debt relief program coming out of the CARES Act. So if you have an outstanding loan or if you have a new loan, which is SBA backed, SBA guaranteed, you get 6 months debt relief on principal, interest, and any fees on that loan. And so, that's something to be mindful of, something you can take advantage of. And also there is an SBA Express loans. There's a provision in the CARES Act of a bridge program that you could get through an SBA Express lender. The bridge loan is up to $25,000, which you could get. Now, in theory, these programs are created. In practice, they're hard to come by, particularly bridge loan program. simply because lenders are overwhelmed with PPP, processing Paycheck Protection Program loans. It's a big priority of the agency. It's a highlight of the agency. Now, just a quick review. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because many of you already know this, but the Paycheck Protection Program, the loans are made, processed, and originated through a third-party lender. Originally, the loans are only being made through SBA lenders or the lenders that were in the SBA Preferred Lender Network. We opened the process, the program up to lenders of all sizes and shapes. Even entities such as fintech organizations, PayPal and the like and Cabbage have been making PPP loans quite effectively, as have community banks and local credit unions. So the Paycheck Protection Program, the loans are made. The guidance is being developed in real time. So we'll try to answer your questions the best we can, but the guidance on forgiveness and what have you is being developed in real time. So without any further ado, I guess I could open it up. Unless I missed something, Lebo, feel free to chime in.
Yes, hi Nick. Thank you for starting up this webinar. I had some technical difficulties earlier. So yes, Nick gave an overview and update on the SBA program, the PPP and EIDL, and if you have any specific questions, I think we can just dive in. We can just see if we can answer your questions and open the floor for questions.
So thank you so much, Lebo and Nick. We received some questions. Let me start with a few questions while other people are preparing. So first question, what is considered full-time employment?
Yeah, this is a good question. You know, for the purposes of PPP, we have not received any guidance and specifically. However, I did some research on this. There were some really good third-party write-ups on this stuff. Experts, you know, we're searching, you know, notwithstanding official guidance from the agency, looking at a field of expertise out there. There's some legal law firms and some accounting firms that have addressed this question, and what they've done is they've actually looked at the CARES Act, which is the definition of a full-time employee in the CARES Act, which is a law which serves as a basis of PPP, and even the EIDL Advance and all those other programs I've taken. So given the CARES Act, I'm going to just, if you don't mind, I'm just going to, you know, look at it. The CARES Act actually defines, the CARES Act actually has a section in it called Section 2301C, and basically the 2301C of the CARES Act refers to the employee retention tax credits that came out of the CARES Act, and that's a program of the IRS. In fact, I'm doing a webinar with the IRS tomorrow, and they're going to be talking about that. But anyway, the Section 2301 of the CARES Act says an employee, a full-time employee, is any employee working at least 30 hours a week. So if you deduce that, and it's a fair assumption to make, if you make that fair assumption that the language would be consistent for a full-time employee as it is for section, you know, under which is, you know, the PPP is Section 1102 is the PPP of the CARES Act. But if you look at the consistency of the language in the CARES Act or what the definition of full-time employee is, and extrapolate that, it is any employee that works at least 30 hours a week. Until, you know, so just assume that until we get further guidance.
Thank you, Nick. And the next question, can I hire new employee to replace the ones who don't want to go back to work?
Yeah, this is a good one. And actually, Lebo, I heard Lebo answer this question really well. And there's, I'll just take a stab at it. And Lebo, you know, feel free to chime in if I miss anything here. Mm-hmm. There's a requirement to have a good faith effort to, you know, and this came in the frequently asked questions that we came up with. I think this was question number 40 in FAQs if you go to our website. But there's a good faith requirement, I believe, that you have to offer your old job to your previous employees, and you need to document that they are, and then, you know, if they refuse, which some of them may for various reasons, safety, what have you, you know, just document that. And then, you know, you could offer, you know, based on the reading, the research I've done, you know, visiting various law firms, employment law firms, and, you know, their readings, you can't hire the employees, and that is permissible. You know, that is permissible based on what I've read. Lebo, feel free to chime in if I missed anything or if I'm off on anything.
No, that's pretty clear. It's this FAQ, frequently asked question, is posted on the Treasury website, and if you just go to question 40, it says the borrower must have made a good faith effort, a written offer to rehire, and if the employee reject the offer, and it must be documented by the borrower. So I guess once you perform this step, you should be able to hire other people for your business need or to meet the loan requirement.
Okay. Next question. Can I give employee raise to encourage them to get back to work, especially the part-time worker who are receiving more unemployment benefits than come back to work? And they have a good reason, care for children who can't be at school or afraid of getting the virus.
Excellent question. Excellent question. Again, this is one where we don't have specific guidance in the SBA. However, if you read the relevant sections of the PPP program in the CARES Act is section 1102, which talks about the PPP program, and section 1106 of the CARES Act, which really addresses a forgiveness portion of the forgiveness provisions of the CARES Act for the PPP loans. This legal write-up that I read, and I'm actually looking at it right now, it talks about the CARES Act defines payroll cost that includes salary, wages, tips, commission, or some other compensation paid to employees. And the lawyer goes and talks about it saying bonuses, raises reasonably fall under the category of similar compensation. And that was actually when I read section 1102 of the CARES Act, I remember reading similar compensation. So under this language, you know, that employment lawyers are using, similar compensation could include things such as raises. So that it should be allowable. Again, the key thing is to document everything.
Next question, Eva. My shop is closed now. My question is whether I need to reopen the shop to use PPP loan, or if I don't need to open the shop to use PPP loan.
So the PPP is really there to primarily pay your employees. Whether the shop is open or closed, it's of less of a concern. As long as you are using that money for payroll cost, or at least using 75% of your loan disbursement for payroll cost. There are businesses I've talked to that are paying their employees to sit at home, and that's what they're using it for, maybe giving them menial tasks at home. So that's a business decision, health safety decision, a state guidelines decision on opening your shop, but it's really used for payroll costs. And the tasks that your employees are doing is less of a concern.
So question from Amir. We have signed the promissory note, but the funds have not been deposited to our account. How long is the process of receiving the funds once you sign the promissory note?
The regulations state that the lender must disperse the funds within 10 days of signing of the promissory note. So 10 days, it should be within 10 days. So of signing the promissory note. And Lebo, is it 10 business days or is it 10 calendar days?
It's 10 calendar days, and it's kind of like the word it says must, right? But SBA is not going to ding the lender if the 10 days falls on a weekend, but it is a 10 calendar day, and the borrower should work with the lender and to work out on this loan disbursement issue.
So next question from Chris. Our Chamorro-owned small business received a PPP loan back on April 6th. Since that time, Uncle Sam has changed the meaning definition of words like uncertainty and necessary in a way that makes us very concerned about using the PPP funds for payroll. Specifically, we are worried about an after-the-fact determination of whether we needed that money. The current safe harbor deadline is May 14th, but there has been no reliable guidance provided to help us make a decision. Our pool of legal counsel, accountants, and business consultants all have very differing opinions about what they have read and heard. Where can we get the straight scoop on what seems like a bait and switch process?
Yeah, this has gotten a lot of media attention, and the reason is, this has gotten a lot of media attention is because the initial headlines coming out of the first round of PPP, where there were well-established firms, brands that we know and love. I could just speak to, I'm a Lakers fan, but the Lakers received it, and the Lakers are one of the most profitable sports franchises out there. So, I guess there was extra attention that was being paid, and they have the safe harbor provisions that, basically give businesses an out to return the money within the deadline of May the 14th, which is this Thursday. And I guess one of the also the issues was, that whole check mark, the requirement that this loan is, the loan is being taken out because the business has been adversely impacted by the pandemic or the disaster. Without further guidance, really, I would ask yourself, and this is, again, a lot of this is not official guidance, I get it, but this is our best understanding and what we're telling businesses. Do you need this money? Did it really disrupt your business? Did the disaster, the pandemic, did it really disrupt your business? And do you need the funds to really supplant your business? And that's really the basis upon which. Is there a credit elsewhere? Could you get credit elsewhere? Could you raise money elsewhere? Is this program, this loan, one of the last resorts that you really have? And that's how I would look to approach it and make the determination whether you should return the money before the safe harbor expires on May 14th, or keep the loan proceeds. If you borrow the money in good faith, if your business was disrupted and you need these funds and it's hard to get credit elsewhere, that's actually, that you should be okay with this. The idea is to not be punitive here. The idea is to get the folks to return the money that really don't need it.
Right, and I just want to add that for the safe harbor, it's really IRS administered tax credit program, and SBA, we just don't have enough knowledge on this program to talk about it. And for the PPP, on the 75%, and there's not a lot of specific language or guidelines. So If you have to make, pick one and another, you just have to base on the information we have now, and also based on your on the talking point that Nick made. Do you need a loan? Because this is marketed as a loan. So if you don't qualify or if you don't meet the criteria, and at the end of the day, it's a loan, and a loan is need basis. If you don't need a loan, and you have option to return this and still enjoy the tax credit from IRS. That's it.
Yeah, and Lebo is referring to the, for those of you who don't know, Lebo is referring to the employee retention tax credit, which I touched on earlier, and that's in section 2301 of the CARES Act. And for those of you who are interested, I think there is, you could follow up with me, Cindy, or whoever, you could follow up with me. I'm doing a webinar tomorrow with IRS, and I'm on a panel, and they're going to be talking about the employee on that webinar tomorrow morning.
Okay, next question from Janice. We have an employee who resigned to accept another position. He is on payroll until May 30th. What is the policy under the PPP loan to rehire anew?
Yeah, again, this is one of those things that we're still awaiting specific guidance. And and I do apologize, folks, because I know there are more questions than answers. But this is a policy that is very unusual because we rolled it out in real time and we're writing the guidance as we get these questions. We don't have official policy of hiring a new, the steps you have to take to hire a new employee. But the main thing I would do is referring back to question 40 of the FAQs. Document that he resigned, that the position was offered to him, he resigned. And then also document that the position needed to be filled. And, and really the write-ups I've seen on the field from the third-party write-ups from the experts in the field, employment lawyers, CPAs, everything says that, everything that they say, again, this is not SBA guidance, and SBA guidance could come out, and I could be wrong here, but everything that they say, with their experience in the field, is you can't hire new employees, given everything's documented, and you want to keep that aggregate number the same. So if you do have a new hire, make sure that the salary level is about the same as the previous salary level of the previous employee.
Next question from Iran. We received our PPP loan in late April. Can it be used for cover some expenses paid in the prior month, or it can only be used in the 2 months following the receipt of the loan?
So the loan proceeds are used to pay your expenses in the 2 months or 8 weeks after the loan origination. And that's sort of this, the strict interpretation of it. So what I would do to be on the safe side, without further guidance, I would use it for the 8 weeks moving forward. You really don't want to give the lender, because the lender is going to make the determination, the lender is going to determine forgiveness, right, who originated the loan, and they're going to submit documentation to SBA. Now, the lenders are awaiting guidance from the SBA, specific guidance on the forgiveness provisions of these loans. We have very general provisions that we gave the lenders, and the general guidelines that we gave lenders, we being the SBA that gave lenders, is that the loan disbursement is to be used for the 8 weeks following the loan origination. And that's not just for payroll, but that's for the other allowable expenses. So to err on the side of the caution, I would really use it for the 8 weeks, following the loan origination.
Next question from Janice Jones. Employee for this position, what is the timeline?
Employees for, could you repeat that question, please, Cindy?
Employee for this position, what is the timeline?
Employees for this position, what is the timeline? I don't know what she means employees for this position. I don't know what this position is referring to. But
Yeah, Janice, if you can, type in the chat room later, we can answer that. Go back to this question. She asked, what is the timeline? Yeah, we will wait for her clarification. So next question, we have an IRS installment agreement dating back to 2013. Under normal circumstances, this would make us ineligible for SBA funds. However, the lender said the rules are different for the PPP. Final determination would be up to SBA, but I have called SBA twice and they have said it's up to lender. Where can I get definitive guidance on this? We are also worried about a bait and switch on this and being held responsible for a loan we took with the understanding of loan forgiveness.
so my understanding of the question is this: the borrower owes money to the government. You know, she has a payment plan with the IRS, I'm assuming, of back taxes, I'm assuming. And basically she's concerned with the back taxes. Is she eligible for PPP? Based on based on calling the SBA, that I believe that is the official answer that we're giving. And I think we also had an official answer, because of folks that were in bankruptcy. There are cases where there have been legal challenges, and you can look up what the rulings were of the courts for that. But to the best of my knowledge, official policy is of the SBA is not which she was originally given. Lebo, do you have any other insight on this?
No, I agree with your I agree with you. Just based on my knowledge, this is based on the SBA 7A loan, and if you have if you own government money, or if you have bad unpaid government loan not in good status, you may not be eligible for this. I understand there is a payment agreement or install payment, and I would have to read the SOP closely to to get the specific language, but I think this is kind of like the 7A loan, which is probably not eligible.
Okay, next question from Joel. The employee already claimed unemployment and get the money, but she is still working for me. Does PPP loan will against her unemployment benefit?
Well, my understanding of state unemployment is if a person collects unemployment and is working, they can work, while they're on unemployment. However, they have to, I guess, deduct whatever wages earned against the unemployment compensation. I believe that's how state employment works uniformly across state. It's, every state has their own unemployment program, but my understanding of a state unemployment is that if a person works while on unemployment, they had to report that work, and they had to, and then they had to report how much they made, while working, and then the unemployment, their unemployment benefits are adjusted accordingly. And I don't know what the formula is. It's different for the state. You can, from my best understanding, this employee, said employee, could feasibly receive unemployment, benefits from the state while she is getting paid by you, and while you're paying her through the PPP funds. I don't believe there's any language or anything in the CARES Act or the guidelines for PPP, which prohibits employees that are on unemployment also getting paid from PPP funds. So you can, short answer is, from my best understanding, my best guess is, based on my knowledge of state unemployment programs, and based on my knowledge of PPP, she could absolutely get paid from the PPP, notwithstanding any sort of a future guidelines or guidance from the SBA. But currently, yes, that's
Next question from Zhi Yun. We received the PPP loan today and we pay employees semi-monthly. Can we use the loan for the coming May 15 paycheck?
Yes, absolutely. We're not, we being the SBA, we're not really concerned about how frequently you pay your employees. And yeah, so it's paying it forward. So yes, if you received it, yeah, that'll be a good use of the PPP funds for the next pay. I guess they're getting paid this Friday. So yeah, absolutely.
And I just want to add, like different employer may pay employee on different frequency, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. But SBA's SBA standard or language is 8 weeks. So it's weekly by SBA language. So you may have to work with your CPA or your payroll person to maybe prorate, that calculation. So that's something that you may have to work it out internally to meet the SBA requirement.
Next question from Wang Yu. What kind of the documents we need to prepare for the loan forgiveness? What's the percentage of the loan will be forgiven?
Real good question. We're waiting for specific, that question is very common. We get that a lot. We're waiting for guidance on specific documents. The good bets that you want to have is you want to have your payroll, your payroll numbers. First, a lot of folks that are doing this, they want to ensure that they have good record keeping. They're actually setting up a separate bank account just for the PPP funds. And you want to have your payroll records. Absolutely, if you're using a payroll processor, PEO firm, make sure you have those records. They'll know what to do. Or your CPA or whoever. Another good bet would be, your IRS form 940 and 941. That's a likely form. That's where you report your, your unemployment, tax return for your employees. So that would be also a good, document to have. The use of the loan proceeds, how we used them. If you use them to pay utilities, your utility statement, if you use it to pay rent, documentation of your rent statement. You really want to match where the money is going with a specific document, invoice, payroll stub, what have you.
Next from.
And Lebo, did you have something to add? I'm sorry, I think Lebo was trying to get in there.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say that at the minimum, it's the same document you applied for this loan for your payroll document. So that's the document accepted by the lender. So at the minimum, you have to have the same kind of document, and if not more, like the item Nick mentioned, it could be just a record of checking. Checks or payroll record. So the bottom line, you want to create an audit trail for your expense paid, and the people who audit your file can identify the line item for payroll. Yeah.
Next question from Fan. If we have two businesses with two Schedule C and 1099s, how will the loan amount be calculated? Will it take into account of both businesses?
Yeah, so, well, let me start with the 1099s. Under all these programs, 1099s apply separately. So, that would be a separate loan, a separate calculation. For a business with a Schedule C, that would be a separate loan, a separate calculation.
Okay, next question from Iran. We have hired contract workers to help with the frontline essential work during this crisis. Can we use part of the PPP loan to pay these 1099 contract workers?
See, this is where it gets tricky, because as I mentioned in the previous question, 1099s are considered to be their own businesses under this program. So paying 1099s, it's really, that's not the design of this program. It may be a problem the way the program is, the way the guidance is written currently. I'm not sure if it's going to be adjusted. I mean, it makes sense from a practical standpoint. I get it. If you're a small business, rather than, getting another W-2 employee, it's much easier to hire a 1099. I completely understand. I was a small business at one point in time, so, I would probably do the same thing. However, all these programs, they look at 1099s as their own separate businesses. So, it becomes very tricky, when it becomes, so if you want to err on the side of the caution, no, you can't use it to pay 1099s. I hate giving that answer. I don't like giving that answer, but that's, but I err on the side of the strict interpretation because I don't want to say something and all of a sudden your loan is not forgiven or your amount is reduced. So if you are paying 1099s, take note of it. Take note that that portion might not be forgiven.
Yeah, Nick, and I just want to add that when this borrower applied for this, he or she didn't use 1099 for the calculation amount. So then the money shouldn't be used for this contractor as a payroll either. So it should be just a business expense, maybe like paying contractor, but it doesn't count as payroll. So.
Okay. Next question from Chumin. What if we use payroll less than 75%? I wonder if we just need to pay back the difference, or is there any penalties?
Yeah, so if you use payroll less than 75%, that decreases your loan forgiveness. There's not penalties per se, to the best of my knowledge. Then it turns into a loan at the stated interest rate, which is 1%, which is a good interest rate. The term of the loan is short. It's a short maturity. So it's a 2-year maturity on the loan. So in a 2-year maturity or 2-year amortization schedule, your loan payment might, the note payments might be big because you got to pay it off in 2 years. So yeah, if you don't use it, or if you use it to pay some other expense, just know it turns into a loan. We get a 1% interest rate, which has to be paid back in 2 years.
Next question from Gerald. What are the rules for PPP loan forgiveness, and has the IRS changed the rules?
Yeah, so the rules generally are this, and this is general guidance. Okay. The general guidance is this: 75% of the loan proceeds, the loan amount, has to be used for payroll cost. Your payroll cost is not just the salaries you pay, but it's any benefits you give your employees. It's any health benefits, paid time off, any contributions you make to the retirement, anything that is considered a payroll cost is in that bucket of 75%. So if you use at least 75% of your loan for these purposes, payroll cost, then your loan would be forgiven. The other 25%, the other 25% could be used for other fixed expenses such as rent, utilities, mortgage, interest on mortgage. But remember, at least 75% should be used for payroll costs. I tell people to err on the side of caution. If it's possible, use more than 75% for payroll costs. because you know, you don't want any sort of error to limit or decrease your loan forgiveness.
Next question from YH. I am an independent agent with 1099 commission income. I don't have payroll for myself, only 1099 income. Can I use my 1099 income to apply PPP? Also, if I get the loan, can I use the PPP fund to pay myself to qualify PPP forgiveness?
Yeah, the short answer to that is yes to both questions. You know, and I think I think it's probably worthwhile just quickly repeating. 1099s are absolutely able to apply for PPP. I know some of my teammates might discourage them, but they are eligible. You got to find a lender that would process them. So they are eligible to apply for PPP. Yeah, so if you're a 1099, you could apply, and yes, you use that money to pay yourself.
Next question from Eva. Are there salary limits for PPP loan?
Yes, $100,000. So you could apply for a PP, and that's a good question. I'm glad I'm getting this question because usually we would do a slideshow and this would be in the slide deck, but yes, salaries up to $100,000. I was actually talking to, I think it was last week, I was talking to a doctor's office, and you know, they were complaining to me that the doctor's salaries that they had on staff were much higher than $100,000. So, but I had to tell them that the guidance, the rules are up to $100,000.
Next question from Chris. I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but how do you know for sure in advance if you were going to need the money?
Well, I think what I would do is and this is my guide, my guidance. So as basically, was your business, first start with that question, was your business disrupted by the pandemic? And I think Libo is looking into certain portions of FAQs. This is salary, but ask yourself, was your business adversely impacted by the pandemic? If the answer is yes, okay. The second question I would ask is, okay, could I get the money elsewhere? Could I raise the money from investors? Do I need the money? Do I have cash on hand where I don't need this program? That might be another question to ask, yourself. I mean, the whole intent here is not to scare people. It's definitely there for the public business that needs, it's there for businesses that need it. The whole idea is to dissuade, the organizations that got the money in the first round, that could have got money, some other ways. A lot of these big publicly traded corporations, they got the money. They could have, sold their, sold some stock, raised money in the bond market. If you could do all those other things, then that's a credit elsewhere requirement. If you're already financially sound and don't need this and need the money, that's another thing. But if you're, let's say, if you could point to the fact that, hey, a business was impacted, make the case, and yes, I need this money, then you should be fine. This is a part of the program which is being developed in real time. So we're, right now, I mean, there's a lot of guidance is being written. There's, certain court cases or certain people, legal challenges, and everything that's happening in real time. So while we await all that, and wait for what the courts say, what, the agency says with further guidance, I would stick to, A, do you need the money? Was it impacted? Were you impacted by the disaster? Was your business impacted by the disaster? And could you get money elsewhere? Is it easy for you to get money elsewhere? And that's what I would do. And I'm sorry I can't go, answer beyond those general terms.
The next question.
Well, if there's anything that I'm missing, feel free to add.
Okay, no, that's good.
Thank you. Next question from Craig. If you have a line of credit available, would that be looked at as funds available and not in need of PPP?
Oh, this is a tough one. The question is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the agency is going to, I'm not sure if the agency is going to come back and be punitive and say, you had credits elsewhere, you had a line of credit, you didn't need PPP, you didn't return the money, you violated safe harbor provisions, therefore we're going to take action to you. I don't know. I don't think that is the intent of the law. And again, this is more going into my personal opinion, which we're dissuaded from doing, but it's because you can make the case that, hey, I needed a line of credit, to supplant other operations in my, other operations in my business. I need it for other working capital. PPP was there, I needed PPP to pay my employees, but I still had to pay other things in my business. Therefore I use my line of credit. So as long as you make the case, you document, you're in good terms. Again, I really believe that this was for the folks that were egregious about this and really took the money that really didn't need the money, that took the loan. So just because your business has a line of credit doesn't mean you made that certification in bad faith. That is my understanding. And Lebo, feel free if you have any other thoughts on this.
No, that's pretty good. I agree. That's pretty good.
So one quick question. I know we scheduled this event till 3, but there's still tons of questions. And would you guys still be available after 3?
Lebo?
Yeah, it's fine with me, and we can maybe just do a speed run, or maybe just answer and
quick answer.
Question. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question from Janice. If you applied for the PPP loan for payroll, can a portion of it also be used for utilities?
Wait,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you can, but just a 75% rule applies. And this 75% right now is just arbitrary, and it doesn't have really a lot of details on, what kind of employee, when and how, to hire those. But 75% for payroll, 25% for other business expense.
Next question from Amir. Is loan origination when I get the funds or when I sign the promissory note?
It's when you sign the promissory note.
Next question from Gerald. What happens if you don't spend it all during the 8-week period?
Be prepared to return that portion of the money.
Next question from Grover. Bank account has money, but it is for paying last year tax. S Corp pass through. I didn't withhold any tax from business side. Will this PPP become not forgivable?
I think in that case, it is forgivable just because your business has money. It goes back to the previous question. You're using that money that you have or that line of credit for other purposes. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about that you would not get the loan forgiven.
Next question from ZY. Can we have new hire or we must keep the same total numbers employees during the 8 weeks following the PPP loan to qualify for the forgiveness?
So the language right now is to maintain payroll and the staffing level. So you should maintain the same payroll, probably meaning the same salary or wage and the same number of employee. It's not designed for business expansion. So if you can fit into this definition and without the perception of business expansion, like a higher additional employee, then yes, I guess.
Next question from Ava. Should the salary be the same as the salary before, or can I pay more, use PPP loan?
So
I think
it does,
we,
yeah, I think there's no specific language. I mean, I think if you try to hire maintain the staffing level and the payroll, yeah, at first you should offer the same. I think at first you should offer the same salary or wage, but and if the employee refuses offer, then you should document and then maybe proceed by making a counter offer. But I would say, just to be on the safe side, document every step of the way.
and that goes back to the earlier question also, when, giving bonuses, our best understanding that's allowable. So you could pay more, but remember, you want to stay within the same level, of what your payroll records were. So if you do give bonuses and increased pay, just be sure it's documented and all that, like Leo said.
Next question from Eric. Will PPP separate the full-time and part-time employee for payroll? We had a part-time employee before pandemic and still part-time now. Will those payroll costs fully covered by PPP forgiveness?
Yeah, it covers full-time and part-time. So yes, your part-time employees will be taken into account as well as the full-time employees.
Next question from Iran. When is considered the loan origination?
I think we just answered this the date that you signed the promissory note.
Next question from Chris. What is the latest info on how having PPP loans forgiven might affect our government contract payments from Uncle Sam?
I think they're completely, different. I mean, you're assuming that, yeah, so whatever you get from, I think, people, I don't know, there was something that I saw. There's actually something that I saw in the CARES Act, which, is used because there's another program in there for government contractors. I can't think of it right now. We'll have to get back to you on that. There was a provision in the CARES Act which talked about government contractors and what, and what contractors could do if their employees, could not go into a government facility for some reason. But generally, PPP is a separate program, but there is something in the CARES Act which I saw, which was separate from that. And you just have to be mindful that if you're a contractor and your employees cannot enter a government facility, there was a provision in the CARES Act which, paid for your employee cost, I think. But then there was a certain application that where it related to the CARES Act, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this presentation, but we could look that up and come back to you. Maybe doing a separate webinar on that one.
Next question from Gerald. The pandemic impact a direct subcontract awards to my business for myself and 2 contract staff persons. Do I qualify as having a valid reason for requesting a PPP loan so that when the city resumes, the contract can be awarded and I am able to meet payroll?
The short answer to that is yes, your business was impacted by the pandemic.
Next question from Xiaomei Ying. I got PPP this week, but my store still was closed. Can I send the payroll to my employees for this week?
Short answer is yes. It doesn't matter about your store being open or closed. As long as you're paying your employees, that's what that's what the lenders and ultimately the agency are looking at. Whether your employees are in the store or outside the store, at home, it doesn't matter.
Next question from Joel. Just wondering, 75% must use to payroll. Can I use the PPP loan to pay myself now, which I don't pay myself before?
How did you apply for this loan? What qualifier? if you applied and the loan was approved for your own salary, then yes. But when you applied and you were not part of the payroll, then how did he apply for this?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if he used his wages to factor into the loan amount and the bank dispersed the loan amount, then of course pay yourself. But if he excluded himself, okay, that becomes a little trickier.
Next from Jensen, does the payroll cost 75% of PPP include employers' tax portion around the 15% of paycheck?
Yes, taxes are included within that 75%. Yeah, so whatever employer payroll taxes and everything, yes, that is payroll cost.
Next question from Ramana. Can you expand a bit more on timing of using PPP proceeds? For example, if we accrue payroll expenses in the 7th and 8th week after loan origination, but the payroll is actually not made until week 10, is that considered to be within the 8-week period, since expenses were accrued during the
So the pay period for each employer is all different. You know, some pay every 2 weeks or on the 1st of the month or every on the 15th of the month. But I think SBA just look at the 8 weeks period. So the 8 weeks period could start on the Mondays, 8 weeks after that, or on the Wednesdays and 8 weeks after that. So I think business owner need to document and maybe work with their accountant or payroll agency to do some kind of prorate calculation if their payroll is in a different frequency to document the 8-week pay period.
Next question from Kevin. Does the 100K rule just apply to salary, or does it also include the IRA, 401K, and the healthcare funds paid to the employee?
Yes, it includes all those benefits. So you include all those benefits, your retirement, all those are retirement accounts, all that is counted within.
Next question from Fan Lee. To piggyback on the earlier question about having 2 businesses as independent contractor, do you mean we should apply for a separate loan for each Schedule C? Will both loans be qualified for forgiveness as they will be used for payroll costs?
So the thing is, I think the original question was a Schedule C and a 1099. And I said that the 1099 applies separately and the Schedule C business applies separately. The most important thing is if you have a separate EIN number, that's what you're using. If you have a distinct EIN number, employer identification number, you would apply for that distinctly. But so however that is.
Next question from Zong Wei. Are the expenses covered under forgiveness incurred or paid costs within the 8-week period?
Yes, 8 weeks. The 8 weeks, the expenses incurred, it has to be within the 8 weeks following the loan origination.
During the current crisis, it's important for us to keep all kinds of benefits insurance for our employees. Are the short-term disability and life insurance costs covered under the forgiveness?
Yes, as part of your payroll cost. So all those benefits are covered.
Next question from Wen Xiao. If a SB firm still haven't received PPP application approval, is it too late?
It is not too late. you know, I believe there's still money in the current appropriation for PPP loans. So it's not too late. I'm not sure when it's going to run out, but it is not too late. No.
Next question from Ted Shell. When and how you can start apply for loan forgiveness, and where can I get the paperwork to apply for?
So the guidance is being written for loan forgiveness. We have, like I mentioned, we have general guidance. Keep records of everything. How are you using your loan proceeds? I think we covered that in the webinar as well on how we should do that.
Next question from Jeannie. How am I to document what I spend the PPP money on? You answered this.
Yes, we answered it a couple times.
Yes. Next from Robert. If the PPP funds that were delayed came after employees start collecting unemployment, can the funds remaining cover employees beyond the 8-week period?
No, it's not really there to, you know, the language, strict interpretation is 8 weeks, not beyond 8 weeks.
Next question from Jackie. My CPA said to use the PPP loan after reopening the shop. Is this correct? Or just send the payroll from this week?
It is 8 weeks after the loan origination. So it does not matter if the shop is reopened or not, but it is 8 weeks after. So you must use it. And when you open your shop, it's a separate but related consideration. But it's 8 weeks, not after you open your shop. You could open your shop anytime, but you must use the firm money 8 weeks after originating the loan.
Next question from Van is if a sole proprietor does not issue W-2 to himself, can he still receive PPP?
Yes, yes. And I think that's where the Schedule C comes in, because I guess he's reporting.
We lost you, Nick?
Yeah, we lost Nick. So the answer is yes, use 1040 Schedule C, line 31.
Next from Robert. Does it matter how much is funding each part-time employee, or can the employer decide to pay full-time for employee who was formerly part-time?
I think by on the safe side, the employer should pay the same wage or salary to the same employee as before the pandemic. And if the employee refuse this offer, then maybe he can take additional action and document those action. But I wouldn't just start paying employee from part-time to full-time and increase the salary from 20% or 50% without any using the previous salary.
Next question from Fanny. Can 100% of the loan be applied for forgiveness as payroll costs?
So there is no specific language. I think if you, there is no specific language, like if you met the 75% rule and 100% of the loan will be forgiven. I think that's the understanding, but there is no specific language on that. And yes, I just don't have any other comment on that.
I think Nick is back. You can add him.
We can let him in.
Nick, right? Let me make him co-host. Nick, you are back.
Yes, hey, how are you?
Long time no see.
I know. The joys of the modern world, the new way of doing things, right?
It's good to have both of us here, so I filled in for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, we answer all the questions in chat box. I do have some question in Chinese. So I know, Nick, you have been working
I'll let Libo
tirelessly.
take those questions. I think his Chinese is better than mine.
Okay. Do you want me?
So, Libo,
Yeah.
yes, I will read the question in Chinese, and Libo, if you can answer in both Chinese and English, that will be fantastic.
Do you want me to translate the
Yeah.
question in English first?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So first question，小企业主有很多员工申请失业金，对企业主的具体影响是什么？要具体怎么多交失业保险金？具体细则是什么？
Okay, so the question is this small business owner has a lot of employee applied for unemployment benefit, and what's the impact for the small business owner to pay the unemployment premium, or unemployment to the state? And that is a question I do not know. I don't think it's really SBA's purview, the impact of small business unemployment credit or premium. And Nick, you understand the question? Do you have?
Yeah, we answered this earlier a little bit, but yeah, it's a separate program. There's not a if you're looking for the unemployment retention credit, that's a separate program. If you're looking at state unemployment, I talked about that earlier. You just have to be the employer, the employee, they just have to be mindful of how all these programs could work and not work together.
Right.
Next question.
Yeah.
下一个问题是，大家申请到的 PPP 和 SBA loan 不用还的最新具体条款是什么？如果申请不还的具体流程是什么？这个回答过了。
对，就是我用中文回答吧，就是SBA 的这个 EIDL idle loan 可以最高申请到1万块钱，然后这1万块钱是不用还，在任何条件、任何情况下都不用还。还有一个贷款是 PPP， 这个 PPP 贷款是通过银行贷款，是如果把75%的钱用于这个给员工的工资然后这个也是不用还这个贷款，这个75%是用在8个星期的这个工资。
OK， 下一个，申请到的 loan 需要报税交税吗？如果需要，按照什么规则交税？这个你可以用英文和中文吧。
Okay, so the question is there a tax filing for the loan received? And I don't know the question if it's pertaining to because this is not an income. So the income tax wouldn't apply. This is a liability on your statement. So I don't think there's any tax filing requirement for a loan. Is that correct, Nick?
Yeah, I think there's just the filings that you might want to be mindful for PPP. I mentioned the 940 and the 941. You might want to have, they may ask you for those during time of forgiveness. As far as receipt of the loan, it does not really change your filings that much because this is money that your business is borrowing.
Okay, yeah, so 我用中文再说一遍，就是这个是一个贷款，不是收入。收入呢，你可能要报税。这个贷款呢，是一个要偿还的，所以 用在发给员工的工资，然后你每一季每3个月你还要通过你的会计师来通报这个向 IRS 通报你的这个工资员工，所以这个是你要是向 IRS 通报，是940还有941这个表格，不过这个不用报这个收入的税，因为这不算收入。
下一个问题 ，PPP 进入账户后，是否一定要开门营业？
So the question is, once they receive the PPP loan, should they or must they open the door? And the answer is no, or that's open the door for business that will depend on the state order or stay home order or the state authority. The PPP loan is for payroll and it is independent from the decision made by business open or close. And 然后我用中文要回答吗？
好呀。
就是说这个你收到这个贷款，和你这个企业开不开门没有关系。你企业开不开门是这个政府还有这个健康的部门决定。这个贷款呢是另外一个条例，是付给员工的工资的。
下一个问题，如果发工资达不到75%，是要全部贷款到的钱都要还回去吗？
So the question is that if they cannot meet the 75%, do they have to pay back 100% or not? And I think the answer is that we don't have clear language, but we only have the language that the 75% is for payroll to be forgiven, right, Nick? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, what I've read is, if they don't meet that, the loan is forgiven. Not forgiven, I'm sorry, the forgiveness is reduced. So, let's say, let's say they don't meet, then that loan amount, let's say they don't do that, but then they would just reduce the forgiveness amount rather than converting everything. That's my reading of it. That's the best of my understanding.
That's good too.
Yeah.
That's good to know. 就是说，如果你没有用到75%，你这个forgiveness 这种免还的这部分可能会减少，也就是不会100%的这种免还这个贷款。Okay.
We have a few more questions in the chat group chat from Jenny. Should employees who are paid more than 100K continue to get paid the same amount?
Well, remember the salary is capped. Oh, I'm sorry, this is in Chinese. Well, is this in Chinese or English? Which one should we do?
English, please.
Okay.
From the chat box, yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I mean, that's asking a lot for me to.
Sorry, you have a switch.
To translate that, but no, yeah. As far as you had to cap them at 100,000. So if they make more than $100,000, for PPP purposes, they had to be capped at $100,000. If you have other funds in your business and you want to pay them the difference, that's up to you. But the PPP loan salaries over $100,000 would not be forgiven. So just keep that in mind.
Next question from Jackie. If I send a payroll this week, our shop closed due to non-essential business closure state order.
Yeah, I know. That is the issue with PPP because one of the things is that they get a lot of the borrowers get the money, but the business is not open. But the rules are you got to pay for the employees, whether your shop is open or not, and you got to use that money for payroll. That part of the intent of this law, what I've read, is to basically keep, employees paid while, your business is closed. It's an alternative to unemployment.
Next question from Eric. One of my friends did not receive the idle advance, which is up to 10K, but got approved for the idle loan. May I know why is that?
I don't know what your friend's specific case. You know, I don't know if there was an error or if he didn't choose to, but the idle advance is $1,000 for every employee. So I don't know, but if he got approved for rest of idle, that is pretty miraculous because I have not really spoken to anyone that has received their idle loan, given the volume.
Okay. Next question from Wen Xiao. If we receive overdue account receivable payment during the 8 weeks, would that impact the forgiveness?
So if you have a overdue accounts receivable payment, would that impact forgiveness? So I'm assuming you're using 25% or that you want to use 25% of the allowable amount on this accounts receivable. I have not seen guidelines on this. I've not seen that this money could be used for accounts receivable to pay off lender. Do you remember?
No, I do.
Yeah.
I do not, and there's no specific language. I would just say, you know, will this affect the forgiveness? I would say under 25% of the amount, and you meet the 8 weeks, it shouldn't be, right?
Yeah, but I guess they're asking if they have a vendor to pay off or something. That's what I'm assuming because they said accounts receivable. And from what when I was reading the CARES Act, in fact, what I'll do is but I don't believe that accounts receivable. I'll do a quick search though while we're taking more questions. I'll look up 1106 of the CARES Act.
Next question from CY. My idle application number is start with 3, and I got the email saying that they received my application. Is it under reviewing now? I didn't get the 10,000 advance yet.
Yes, so we have received over 4 million idle loan applications, and the numbers start with the first 3 digit is 330, and the next number is the number in queue. So if it's 3303, that's the 3 millionth application in the queue. If it's 3304, it's a 4 millionth application in the queue.
Next question from Grover. I have friends apply the PPP loan the same time when they apply for idle. Can they do that?
Yes, they can apply for both idle or PPP.
Next, I have 6 more questions in Chinese.
Okay.
And 员工没有身份，但是他们还报税号，这样他们可以从 PPP loan 里面出工资吗？
So the question is, if the employees are not of legal residence, but they still pay income tax, are they eligible to receive PPP, receive payroll from PPP? Nick, do you have any insight on that?
I believe that we had this question, remember earlier, about the residency requirement and the legal status and whatnot. I believe the residency, we were using residency of the business owner.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have guidance on terms of the employees, but if we're using, I would presume it would probably be the same.
Yeah.
For employees.
Yeah, primary resident in the U.S.
Yeah, so residency should be fine.
Yeah.
Next question， 给出的工资是不是应该跟2月份开出的工资差不多？
So the question is the pay salary or wage from PPP, should that be same or similar to the pay from February? I would say yes, you should offer the same equivalent number starting, that should be the starting point. 应该是和那个2月份的基本上一样，这应该是你的这个最初的这个给发给员工的一个工资标准。
好，下一个，以前的员工不做了，现在新请的员工，这样子可不可以用那个 PPP 开工资？
So the question is, the previous employer,
employee.
the previous employee left, and can he use the PPP for the new hire? And the question is yes. In short, yes, 可以。
Next， 以前的员工是 part time， 现在是 full time， 跟2月份出的工资不一样，可以吗？
The question is that the prior to February, the employee was part-time, and now it's full-time. So I would say I don't know. Nick?
Yeah, there's, so he was a part-time employee that was using the calculation, now he's full-time.
Yeah. Just don't give the perception as a business expansion. You're hiring more people, you're increasing their pay, and you're increasing, more revenue. You're expanding the business, and that's prohibited. But I don't know. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it does have a provision in there that, that you could give bonuses and raises.
Right.
So it could be considered like a raise. But I would say if you do that, keep your overall payroll cost about the same.
Yeah.
The total number.
Cindy, how many more questions do we have?
I have 2 more questions and 1 more in the chat.
Okay, let's do quick.
Almost there. OK， 以前 part time 跟 full time 员工12个，现在全部都是 full time 员工，出的工资跟1月、2月差不多，就是员工人数少了。PPP 开工资可以 forgive 吗？
So before February, there was 12 employees. After February, there's less, but those 12 employees, some of them become from part-time to full-time. So my answer is just to, if they can keep the same total payroll amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 保持这个总员工的这个工资总和数和2月之前差不多一样就可以，应该可以。
Next， 以前员工的工资没有去拿失业金 plus PUA 的多，现在回来叫他们停了失业金，可是工资比1月跟2月涨了，这样他们才同意回来上班。那我们也可以用 PPP 来发工资 forgive， 还是一定要跟之前一样呢？
So the question is that some laid off employee received the unemployment benefit, and they are, I think they're hired back, but hired back with salary increase or wage increase. Can they qualify for PPP? I would say you just have to document that they only accept the offer based on an increased salary. I think you just can't offer them back without giving them the original salary amount. If you just increase by 50%, like they didn't even ask for it, I don't know if that's the prudent thing to do, right, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
last.
Go ahead.
Last question from Grover. I'm in insurance business. My employees' payroll is based on days plus commission. We have less sale, so employees' commission decrease. Will that impact the PPP be forgivable?
again, I think the loan forgiveness, the loan amount, commissions are considered, commission income is considered in the loan amount. So, and then, so as long as you pay your employees, whatever, the loan calculation was, and then you just pay them. And so, yes, and you use it to pay them, it will be forgiven if you just stay within the formula.
Okay, wonderful. That's our last question. And thank you so much, Nick and Label. We have tons of questions, and we really appreciate your time and expertise answering all those questions. And thank you all the participants, and thank you for your participation. If you have more questions, feel free to contact the chamber at the office at asian-americanchamber.org. And we will end the session now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Our pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.